What was I going to say? I know what I'm doing. You think I don't have a plan. You think I don't have a plan. You're wrong. I do. You're wrong. So English is an easy language, is it? Some people tell me that. Anyone who says English grammar is easy, show them this video. Now, I teach English. I've been doing it for a long time. And most of the time, what I need to explain is the standard grammar that you get asked every day. What's the difference between the present perfect and the past simple? How do you use much and many? How do you pronounce the word mischievous? It's mischievous, by the way. How do you spell chrysanthemum? Now, this is the bread and butter for every English teacher. But sometimes in my research, I come across some English grammar rules that make you go, what? Or no. And this is what we're going to look at today. The top 7 ridiculous or obscure grammar rules in the English language that will make you want to pull your hair out. Let me tell you that even most native English speakers won't be able to explain these rules. Most teachers won't know these rules. So watch this video, then ask your teacher if they know the answer. Okay, that would be mischievous, wouldn't it? This video is not for everyone, but if you are a little bit of a geek like me, or you just want to know all the rules of the English language, even the strangest, then join me in these tales from the dark side of the English language. Hello and welcome to Let Them Talk. So let's get straight into this, the strangest and most obscure English grammar rules. And we'll start with the plurals of fish. Now the word fish is singular and plural, but the plural can also be fishes. Both are correct. I'm sure you know that. But did you know that some species of fish take an S plural and some don't? So for example, 1 salmon, 2 salmon. That's right, no S. But 1 sardine, 2 sardines with an S. 1 cod, 2 cod, no S. 1 tilapia, 2 tilapias, S. 1 herring, 2 herring, no S. It's crazy. Seafood usually takes the S. 1 lobster, 2 lobsters. Although krill, that doesn't. 1 krill, many krill. Some animals which are also food, such as sheep, do not have an S. 1 sheep, 2 sheep. The rules seem to be pretty vague, and I'm not sure I quite understand when you use the S and when you don't use the S myself. And just to add something even more crazy into the mix, cannon. The word cannon. Boom. Now, 1 cannon, 2 cannon. We fought the battle with 5,000 cannon. So for number 2, we're going to stick with the subject of plurals. Now the English language has always been something of a sponge, soaking up words from different languages, especially French, which makes up about 40% of the origin of English words. That's French or Norman French. So there is the utmost respect for foreign languages and foreign words that enter English. We don't have an academy of the English language. So when a foreign word enters the language, it kind of just sits there. And if it's a noun, do we respect the origin of the word and give it the same plural as in the source language? Or do we use an English plural, the S? Nobody seems to agree. And so in some cases there are 2 correct plurals, that of the original language and the English one. So for example, stadium is the plural. Stadiums, the English plural, or stadia from Latin. Octopus is the plural. Octopuses, the English, or octopodes from Greek. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correct. In other cases, only the foreign plural is considered correct. oasis. The plural is oases and not oases. The plural of crisis is crises, not crises. Sometimes the plural word is more common than the singular. So the question is, what's the singular? Look at these Italian words. Graffiti is a plural. Now, what's the singular? Is it graffito? Oh, look, that's a lovely graffito on the wall there by Banksy. What about spaghetti? I've got one spaghetto. I don't know. Paparazzi is the singular paparazzo, although yes, I have seen that one. So if possible, respect the original plural or singular, but be careful because you can sound very pretentious. So you could try to use the foreign plural if you know it, but if not, just use the S. Don't worry about it. Anyway, so over to you. What's the plural of these English words of foreign origin? Bonsai, seraph, virtuoso, flamingo, chateau, wunderkind. Answers in the comments. The wunderkind stole a bonsai from the chateau. Punctuation. God, I hated punctuation at school, and even as a teacher I still get headaches with punctuation, but I guess it's important. M dashes, N dashes and hyphens. Now you might think that all lines between words are the same, but let me tell you that they are not. There are 3 different lines with varying degrees of length, and believe it or not, this is pretty important when writing. So let's start with the hyphen. The hyphen, the most common use of the hyphen is to separate compound words and phrases and names. So, for example, well known, mass produced, a 5-year-old child, Jean-Paul. Some names are hyphenated. Is your name hyphenated? Now the N dash is slightly longer than the hyphen, and this separates numbers or dates in a range. So for example, pages 117 to 123, 1925 to 1985, July to October. Now the M dash is slightly longer still, and this separates words a bit like a comma and is used to add some new information to a sentence. So for example, it's the British, or rather the Scottish, who make the best whiskey. Nobody, not even his wife, suspected he was the murderer. You can separate a phrase just like this if you really want. Now the next rule is about collective nouns in English. Now, 1 cow, 2 cows. Many cows, you say a herd of cows. You might know that, that's quite common. Sheep could be a flock of sheep. Also a flock of birds. A swarm of bees. But some animals have really bizarre collective nouns. A parliament of owls. A mischief of rats, an ambush of tigers, an unkindness of ravens. Unkindness of ravens? It's not only animals, people too. Some collective nouns of people include a pound of pianists, a pratfall of clowns, a shuffle of bureaucrats. Oh look, there's an unkindness of ravens flying around in the sky above my apartment. Now, this next rule is a minefield. Even the scholars of the English language can't agree. And I've been teaching it one way for years, and I find out that maybe that's not correct anymore. So this is about possessives with S. When you have a noun that ends in an S, how do you make it possessive? Okay, sounds simple, but it's not. Let me give you an example. the witness's statement, okay? The witnesses. Does it have S apostrophe S at the end or just S apostrophe? Now, for years, I've been teaching that both are correct. You just need to be consistent. But after doing some research, many don't agree. Some style books insist that you add an S if it's a singular noun. The boss's birthday, Dennis's signature. But some style books say that for biblical and classical names, you do not add a second S. So Jesus' sandal, apostrophe, S apostrophe, no second S. Moses's stick, S, no apostrophe. Now, it seems crazy that biblical and classical names should have its own rule, but I know that Achilles' heel is written S apostrophe and there's no second apostrophe, and that seems wrong. So maybe there's some truth to that. I don't know. Okay, are we agreed? No, because the New York Style Manual says that all singular names should have one S followed by an apostrophe and no second S. For example, Dickens's book, Paris's Best Restaurant. But if the S at the end of the word is not pronounced, then you add a second S. Arkansas's governor. It's a minefield, and nobody seems to agree in the end. So the best rule is probably the one that I started off with. Choose the one you like and stick with it. Now, this is maybe the most obscure piece of grammar that I found. In English, we use apostrophe S to mark a possessive, don't we? Bob's book, not the book of Bob. Okay, so apostrophe S or S apostrophe, that's how it is. That is the possessive case, sometimes referred to as the Saxon Genitive, harking back 1,000 years when English had a much more complex grammar with lots of different cases, all of which died out, except the Saxon grammar. We use it for names, we use it for times as well. Monday's lesson, yesterday's breakfast. I'm sure you know that. But did you know that in one case in English we do not use the Saxon genitive? In astronomy, when we are talking about stars in a constellation, we use the Latin genitive. So for example, the star far, far away called Alpha Centauri, up there somewhere, its name of the constellation is Centaurus, and the first star belonging to this constellation, so we use the Latin possessive Alpha Centauri, and not the Saxon genitive, which would be Centauris Alpha. So in English, we usually use a Saxon genitive, except in astronomy where we use the Latin genitive. Remember that. It's important. Actually, probably not. So, did you know there are about 1,000 French expressions that we use in the English language? Some of them are very common, some of them less so. So, some examples of common French expressions that we use in English: déjà vu, crème de la crème, faux pas, bon appétit, bon voyage, au contraire. But the question is, how are you supposed to pronounce these words in English? Now let's have a look at the Bible of Style Guides for British English, Fowler's English Usage, who says, to say a French word in the middle of an English sentence exactly as it would be said by a Frenchman in a French sentence is a feat demanding an acrobatic mouth. The the muscles have to be suddenly adjusted to a performance of a different nature, and after it are suddenly recalled to the normal state. It is a feat that should not be attempted. All that is necessary is a polite acknowledgement of indebtedness to the French language, indicated by some approach in some part of the word to the foreign sound. So, if I understand that correctly, you are not supposed to sound French when you use a French expression in English. That's wrong. Sorry, French people, you're getting it wrong. You mustn't sound too English either. You have to occupy that middle ground where people know you are using a foreign word, but not so much as it sounds like you are a foreigner. So, for example, you say faux pas, not faux pas. You say crème de la crème, not crème de la crème. You say savoir-faire, not savoir-faire. So the bottom line is, if you're using French words in English, don't sound too French. So if you know any weird English grammar rules that I haven't mentioned, then put them in the comments. Or if you know any strange, bizarre grammar rules from your own language, then we'd love to hear them too. Put them in the comments. Thank you for watching. See you soon.